All around Cannes, tall mountains encircle the area. White houses sit on these mountains, looking like tiny dots in the greenery. Some houses near the water have gates opening to the wide walkway washed by gentle waves. The air feels soft and warm. It's a sunny winter day with hardly any cool breeze. A young woman leaves her small, pretty house and smiles at the people passing by as she heads to an empty bench by the sea. She's tired after walking just 20 steps and sits down, breathing heavily. Her face looks pale, almost like a dead person. She coughs and tries to stop the coughing fits with her fingers. She looks at the sunny sky, the astral mountains, and the calm, beautiful sea nearby. She smiles and says, "I'm so happy." But she knows she's going to die soon. She won't see the springtime again. A year from now, the same people passing by will be here again, with their bigger children and hopeful hearts, while she'll be lying in a coffin, her flesh gone, only bones left under the silk shroud she picked. She won't exist anymore. Life will continue for others, but for her it's all over forever. She smiles and tries to breathe in the sweet garden air with her sick lungs. She starts thinking about the past. For years ago, she got married to a man from Normandy. He was a strong, bearded man with a narrow mind but a cheerful attitude. They got married because of money reasons she didn't know about. She wanted to say no, but she agreed to keep her parents happy. She was from Paris and loved life. Her husband took her to his big stone house in Normandy. She remembers everything, arriving, the first day in the new house, and the lonely life after that. When she got out of the carriage, she joked about how the house looked dull. Her husband laughed and said they'd get used to it. They spent their time hugging each other that day, and she didn't mind. This went on for a month. In the summer, she watched men harvesting in the fields. The bright sunshine made her happy. Autumn came. Her husband went hunting with his 2 dogs, Medar and Mirza. She stayed home alone, but didn't feel sad about Henry not being there. She liked him, but didn't miss him. When he came back, she showed more affection to the dogs. She took care of them every evening, giving them cute names she didn't use for her husband. He always told her about his hunting adventures. He talked about finding birds and getting surprised by not catching any hares. Winter arrived, the cold and rainy Norman winter. Rain poured down on the house's roof like a sharp knife. Around 4 o'clock, dark crows perched on the tall trees near the house, making loud noises. They flew from tree to tree, seeming to fight and making a mess. She watched them every evening, feeling sad about the darkness falling over the empty countryside. She lit lamps and sat by the fire. She burned a lot of wood but couldn't warm up the damp, cold rooms. She felt cold all the time, in the living room, during meals, and in her own room. Her husband only came home for dinner. He was always hunting or working in the fields. He would come home happy, covered in mud, and rub his hands, saying, "What awful weather." Or, "A fire feels cozy." Or sometimes, "How are you today?" "Feeling good." He was happy, healthy, and content with his simple, quiet life. Around December, when the snow arrived, she felt so cold in the old house that seemed frozen from its age, like people growing old, that she asked her husband one evening, "Hey, Henry, we should get a heater for the house. It would dry the walls. I can't stay warm all day." At first, he was surprised at the idea of having a heater in their old house. He thought it was funny and laughed loudly, saying, "A heater here? Huh, what a joke." But she kept insisting, "I'm telling you, dear, I'm freezing. You don't feel it because you're always moving, but I'm really cold." He laughed and said, "Nah, you'll get used to it. Plus, it's good for your health. We're not city folks who need heaters all the time." And spring's almost here. In early January, something terrible happened. Her parents died in a car crash. She went to Paris for their funeral, and her sadness consumed her for about 6 months. The nice, warm summer days woke her up from her sadness, but she still felt sad until autumn. When the cold came back, she faced a sad future for the first time. She didn't know what to do or what would happen to her. She had no hope left. A doctor said she couldn't have children. The cold hurt her even more than before. She tried to warm up by the fire, but cold air always found its way to her. She felt like the cold air was her enemy, making her shiver all the time. She asked for a heater again, but her husband thought it was impossible. Once, he went to Rouen for work and brought back a small copper foot warmer, joking that it was a portable heater. He thought it would keep her warm. In late December, she realized she couldn't keep living like this. She asked timidly if they could spend a week or 2 in Paris before spring. He was surprised. "In Paris? But why? We're better off here. Why do you have these strange ideas?" She hesitated. "It might make us feel better." He didn't understand. "What do you want? Parties? Dinners? You knew we wouldn't have those things here." She felt like he was blaming her and went silent. She was shy and didn't have the strength to argue. In January, the cold came back strongly and snow covered the ground. One evening, she saw a big group of black crows flying away, and she started crying without meaning to. Her husband came in and asked, "What's wrong?" He was happy, always happy. He didn't understand why she felt sad or bored. He loved living in their quiet home all year round. He didn't get why some people wanted to go to different places in different seasons. She couldn't say much and quickly wiped her tears. Finally, she said sadly, "I feel a little sad, a little bored." But she got scared she said too much and added quickly, and "I feel a little cold." He got mad, saying, "You're still talking about the heater? You haven't been cold since we got here." Night came. She went to her room, feeling cold even in bed. She thought, "It'll always be like this until I die." She thought about her husband. How could he say she hadn't been cold? She felt angry and weak. She felt like she needed to cough so he'd understand her. She decided she would cough so he'd see how she felt. She got out of bed, her legs and feet bare, and had a simple idea that made her smile. I want a heater, and I'll cough until he puts one in. She sat in a chair in her nightdress, waiting for a long time. She felt cold, but she didn't catch a cold. So, she decided to try something bold. Quietly, she left her room, went downstairs, and opened the gate to the garden. The snowy ground seemed lifeless. She bravely stepped into the icy snow, feeling the cold like a sharp pain in her heart. She walked slowly through the grass, telling herself, "I'll go to the pine trees." She walked fast, feeling out of breath and gasping each time her foot sank into the snow. She touched the first pine tree, making sure she completed her plan, and then went back inside. She felt so numb and weak that she thought she might fall a few times. Before going back in, she sat in the snow and even rubbed some on her chest. When she got back into bed, she felt like there were ants in her throat and crawling all over her body. Despite feeling sick, she fell asleep. The next day, she couldn't get up because she was coughing so much. She had lung inflammation. She became confused and kept asking for a heater. The doctor said they needed to get one. Henry agreed, but didn't seem happy about it. Her condition was serious. Her lungs were in bad shape, and everyone worried about her life. If she stays here, she won't make it through the winter, said the doctor. So, she went south to Cannes. She enjoyed the sun, the sea, and the smell of orange blossoms. In the spring, she returned north. But now she was scared of getting better and facing the long winters in Normandy. Whenever she felt a little better, she opened her window at night and remembered the warm shores of the Mediterranean. And now she knows she's going to die. She's okay with it. She opens a newspaper she hadn't read yet and sees the headline, "The First Snow in Paris." She shivers but then smiles. She looks at the astral mountains turning pink in the sunset. She gazes at the vast blue sky and the big blue sea, feeling peaceful. She stands up and heads back home, coughing a bit because she stayed out too long and got cold. Inside, she finds a letter from her husband. She opens it, still smiling, and reads, "My dear love, I hope you're well and not missing our beautiful country too much. We've had frosty days lately, hinting at snow. I love this weather, and you should know I haven't paid attention to your heater." She stops reading, feeling happy that she got her heater. She lets the letter fall onto her lap and brings her left hand to her mouth, trying to calm her stubborn cough.